obviously here I'm playing with the default. He doesn't really know what he's doing, as he's been shooting enemies with propane tanks and destroying the entire base. So there we go with the default guy. This base was fully all built and flexed, that's why I was going to go ahead and show it off to you guys. But the problem with this is that default has gone ahead and ruined my base. I will not. He has completely destroyed my base completely. He has gone around and just fucked it up by shooting up the propane tank enemies. When it comes to seeing the construction of the base with trap tunnels everywhere, you do not go anywhere near the enemies, and you do not shoot any of the enemies because it leads to it being broken. I'm just a little bit annoyed right now, guys, because my base was fully built. I'd spent a lot of time and a lot of materials building this base, and this guy's gone ahead and ruined it. This is why I usually don't play in solo. You guys usually wonder why I don't play in solo. It's fully for this reason, because the defaults like this guy, he can go ahead and ruin the build. Even though I don't think he understands the cost of how much it actually cost me to build the base, and now he's just sat there doing his own little thing like a little prick. So yeah, sorry if I'm getting a bit annoyed, but this guy's an absolute dickhead, and well, I hope that he gets scammed for his entire inventory. The guy's an absolute twat, and yeah, he shouldn't have done anything like that. He should have just been supportive and just have left it. The trap would have killed everything anyway. I set up all of this to lock out all of them to drop into here, and with the traps all inside it to kill the enemies. And now this Muppet here has gone ahead and ruined my base. So he can go ahead and experience what it's like to go and defend it firsthand. Because right now I really couldn't care less if we failed this mission now. But yeah, speaking of which, we're going to go over the ins and outs of base building and well, obviously what's good in base building and what's bad. One thing to go over, you kind of need to look out for the spawns of the enemies and other things like that, and you kind of need to funnel them into a fashion of which it prevents them from actually dealing any extra like damage to the base. And you kind of need to like build them into a format of where they cannot get into the base with ease, but still somehow get in there, because the whole point of the trap tunnels is it's supposed to support them getting in there, but you manoeuvring them in your own particular fashion. But yeah, this guy here is an absolute muppet. He had no idea what he's doing. He's just started shooting all the enemies around my base, and he's just ruined it for me now. I will go ahead and jump into the base a bit and see how he's going to build it up and defend it. Obviously with this one I went with the standard pyramid fort, just because when it comes to atlases you cannot actually build around it and give it enough support as what it needs. The only downside of doing it with this build is that it's very much harder to actually trap up the enemies and deal damage. See, I don't know why I don't know why he's shooting that flinger when it's little things like that which is something off the defaults, how they just don't know what they're doing. Yeah, this guy's just really annoying me. It just seems he has no clue what he's doing in this game, and that's the reason why I'm struggling. I hope I die here, but yeah, so I'm going to take a look at different base builds afterwards. I will do a stream later on, and just explain some other things to do with the game. I know a few people already made some tutorial videos out recently on the roadmap that yeah, I should cover that soon, but I think all of you guys probably already know what the roadmap is. I'll go ahead and start working out later on. Anyway, we have successfully completed that, and I have completed my quest. So there we go. I'm going to go ahead and report this guy real quick. Just, well, pretty much, yeah, harassment. It's an absolute melt. He absolutely ruined the game for me. So I'm going to go and report him. I'm just going to remove comments for a second, because I know a lot of you are probably still in bed, everyone in America and other things like that. Obviously, we'll be viewing the video later. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and look at different builds for base designs, and we'll go ahead and do that in like my stonewood base, and I'll just show off examples. You're just going to have to imagine that when I place the triangle down, you're going to have to, when I tell you what it is, you're going to have to think about what it is and see everything else. it's not as practical as going into an active base, but it's more supportive towards you guys. I could actually go into a playground mode on Battle Royale. That would actually work out quite well, because you get max wood. I'm actually going to go and do that. I'm going to go to playground Battle Royale. I'm going to go ahead and build for you, and then obviously you guys get a Battle Royale video as well, and you guys can't complain that I haven't done a Battle Royale video. So yeah, I'm going to go and teach you some building methods and some building techniques as well, and I'll go do that in Battle Royale in a second. Just going to go and claim this 120,000 Survivor XP I get from this mission, and then get up my level to 89, and then, yeah, we'll go to Battle Royale and show you some building techniques. Oh, we also get Epic's Cachet. So that's new, that it looks like a little iPhone. It's an Epic Cachet, like a perk up. And it can contain anything in there, but this one's an epic perk cache, so this one contains epic perk. So there we go, we've completed that one. I don't know how much we're on now. I hope we get up another perk. I'm gonna go with the crit damage probably with this one. Yeah, we got enough for crit damage. There we go, slowly but surely getting there, all the way up to God roll. Oh, it's going to take us a while though. But yeah, let's go and jump onto Battle Royale, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm on about when it comes to this building techniques. There is a new emote out, so if you guys want a American football emote skin, they're out in store now. Me, I really don't care because they're American football, and I'm not American, so I'm going to go into Playground. I'm actually going to make it daytime. Alright. Let's just remove the back bling just for other purposes, and probably, yeah, I'll just leave the aim skin on. Alright, so we're gonna go jump into a playground. We're on by ourselves, so there's no one else to interrupt us, and we're gonna go and build some different bases. Now, this is depending on whether you are a constructor, a soldier, an outlander, things like that. And you're gonna have to build more if you're not playing constructor. It depends what constructor you're actually playing. Alright, so we're gonna just drop straight away into an area that's quite empty. I would say like, I don't know, fail field or something. Just gonna drop down and get some materials. And I go about doing this by placing down triangles to show you what different atlases, or maybe retrieve data, or maybe shelters are. Shelters are usually 4x4 builds anyway, so it shouldn't be too hard to just replicate that and just show it off. This area here is pretty good to build on. Sorry guys, got a bit of a cold. I'm gonna go grab this wood. There we go. Right. So we'll go ahead with a regular Atlas build in a solo game. So pretend this is your Atlas, right? A solo Atlas quest. This is your Atlas. You can't place pieces in front of the Atlas directly, but you can in fact place inverted walls next to the Atlas, which is, you know, I'm just gonna place some floors next to this thing quickly because it's just spazzing out. Alright, so you can place these inverted walls next to it, right? Which has a high lot of practicality. Usually build this out of brick or metal when you upgrade it, depending on the quest you're doing. And then usually what people like to do is they like to place a thing on top of the Atlas. Obviously right here I can't do that because, well, this is just a ramp, so I'm just going to go build it like this. But pretend this here is the Atlas, and then you go ahead and place it off like that. A lot of people like to close the top off, like so. And this here is very basic in trap building for an Atlas. So the centerpiece here is an Atlas. We'll go ahead and edit that back down so it looks like a triangle, so it is an Atlas. And what you would do here, on the floor you would put floor launchers, and obviously on the ceiling you can put ceiling gas traps, and they do trigger when they come close to the wall. But sometimes players, including myself, sometimes like to build these out a little further, and that is because we can put ceiling gas traps on these ones and do a little bit more damage. We can also bring this one out further and obviously bring out the traps. But the only problem with this build is that it's not as practical as the if you're doing a retrieve the data or other missions, because it just doesn't allow you to have traps on the inner core, so your wall darts will not be piercing through the walls, so it won't be dealing as much damage as possible. But if this was a retrieve the data once the balloon has landed, you would go ahead and put these walls into the center, because it can be built into a little 1x1 space, and you would put wall darts or wall launchers on these walls on the inside, because that will either push back the enemies that get close to it, or wall darts will damage the enemies that are whacking this wall here, which this one you'd want to max out completely to full level. These ones right here, okay? These ones you'd want to max out completely to 100%, 3 times maxed out, and then with that bearing in mind, then you can actually go ahead and defend this one off fairly relatively easy. This is if you're doing it solo at level 1 basic standard, and that's all you really need to do the traps. To be honest, for a retrieve the data mission, it's really quite kind of basic anyway, how you go about doing it. Doing it like this anyway is just it makes it a lot easier for yourself than doing the pyramid build. Now we'll go over the pyramid build now for anyone who doesn't know what it is. We're just going to go build our little 2x6 area along somewhere around here. We'll just build up and then just build a little 2x6 zone. Sorry, 3x3 zone. So obviously the Atlas would be here in the center, so you're just gonna have to pretend that's the Atlas, obviously. But how people go about doing this, it's as basic as it sounds. They go ahead and they just place triangles all around it, and then they go ahead and just edit them into a triangle. And yep, can't really see this one. And then they go ahead and build a pyramid out of it, which is a basic form which is used heavily a lot in like Plankton and Canny Valley, but it's not as practical in the later game, like when you're in Twine and stuff, because, well, yeah, you can get traps on and stuff, and I did do it in my last game, obviously, before the guy ruined it for me, which I just streamed before. But on here you'd put like floor spikes or retractable floor spikes, floor grave traps, freeze traps, stuff like that on these ones here. And then on other things around here you can't really put anything else. Sometimes people like to put walls on the inside, depending on their trap tunnel builds. They can put wall darts, wall launchers in these ones, or edit them down for extra support. They do become seamless then, and they cannot reach these until they have broken in. But by that point, because you can't have a wall behind here, because it is not a retrieve the data mission, it is an Atlas, you cannot have these walls here. So that's a bit of a pain in the backside. But yeah, usually you stick your base in here if you're running Constructor, just to give it maximum defense. But that is like a basic standard form of building an Atlas defense, and obviously most people decide to build this up onto many different Atlases. Obviously, if you do multiple defense for the Atlases, that is more practical, just because everyone can connect them together with their base, especially if you're on a mega base, which makes it a lot simpler. We're going to go ahead and just take a look quickly at different trap tunnel designs, depending on the way the enemies are coming in. So we're just going to create a little platform here. Let's get a bit more wood. Alright, so let's just, for example, we'll say that the spawn of the enemies is like over there by that tree, okay? So the enemies are over by this tree, alright, and the Atlas is like, let's say, just over by this tree here, okay? They are going to filter through, coming through here, but the way you want to go about doing this, usually, to stop them from going to other areas, let's say there was a drop down on the right hand side, you'd kind of want to build it off by placing walls down like this, and then you'd want to go ahead and just kind of do it too high. It just prevents them from breaking it and kind of filters them through to the side. And this here is quite practical because it actually forces them to come around these sides, especially if the Atlas is just down there. So if I place a triangle down, just so you guys know, with no point of reference, if I go ahead and place my Atlas here, you guys know my Atlas is here. Obviously it would have defense and stuff around it, but that would just be the core Atlas there as it is. And obviously this space here is open space, and they are spawning by that tree over there. Obviously in the games there are multiple spawn points, and you can do this for multiple different spawn points. But how I about going and doing my different trap tunnels, if you guys are new to the channel and you don't really know what I do for my trap tunnels, I go ahead and I build a 2x2 space, fill the ceilings in. I then edit these walls here to go closest into the wall. I then add 2 walls into the center, like so, and then I add another one like this. And this here pretty much murders absolutely everything that goes in there. Depending on the difficulty of mission, depends on how wide you make it. You can go up further, depending on the difficulty of your mission. It's just going to cost you a vast amount more materials to trap this all up. So how I go about doing this, wall launchers all along these walls here, because they are being forced to walk on the further side of the wall. And if you're running Mega Base Kyle, the traps won't be running as quick, but if you have a Machinist or you have Heavy Base, the Traps will be generating very quickly and reloading very fast. That is why with my traps I don't really have reload on them, because I run heavy base if I'm going for trap tunnels and obviously everything else. If I'm going for just a defensive game where obviously I know we're going to win, then I go mega base just because of the extra defense support, and obviously has a little bit more damage stats onto him as well, so it would help out a little bit better with that. But yeah, you'd go ahead and put wall launchers onto these ones here. You would then put wall launchers on the left or right hand side of the walls, but you have to repeat this on every single side just to make it all match. And depending on the way they spawn, I know it's a bit weird to understand, but you have to put the wall launchers depending on the way they're coming from. So if they are coming from this way, you're going to have to put wall launchers on these ones here, because for some reason it just doesn't trigger right when it comes to the right hand side one, and I don't know why that is. It's just a bug in Save the World, but it just is. These ones here, I usually put wall darts. This is just so it traps everything in there. With the designs like these as well, usually when you're coming up to the Atlas or something, obviously you'd have an inverted wall, but let's say that wall wasn't there. I put wall darts on here as well, just so it hits everything down the line, dealing even more damage. But yeah, wall darts on the inside walls, wall launchers on this side, wall lights here, and ceiling gas traps here, wooden floor spikes on the floor to slow them down. Now I'll explain why I put all these traps in here, okay? Wall launcher to knock them into this little pit right here. The wooden floor spikes all inside the I usually put wooden floor spikes everywhere. This is to do chip damage and also slow down the enemies to make them takes them longer to move into the base. Obviously the traps will hit them harder then and reload if they haven't hit them already. With a base like this, it should be perfectly fine anyway. The wall lights stun enemies, so they will not be able to move. They get stuck there and will deal extra damage to them. The ceiling gas trap is one of the best ceiling traps in the game, so those traps will literally just annihilate anything that comes through. Get those up to the highest level first. I highly recommend it. And then obviously get your wall launcher, your wall darts, and your wooden floor spikes afterwards. Wall lights are kind of necessary, but if you have other traps on the walls as well, like wall dynamos, they work just as well. Obviously without the stun effect, but it does still deal extra damage because it does shark out into a 1 tile radius. So obviously if you guys have got that, then that's amazing. You got to make sure that all your schematics are all highly leveled up, because otherwise it just won't have as much maximum potential as it could do. So always max those out, even if you don't have the materials from. The trade and value for the materials for traps are very low, so you should be able to trade something for them. Obviously when it comes to this section, if there is open ground, you can go ahead and block it off with these inverted wall straps, because this just stops them from coming in. Once it goes 2 or 3 too far, the enemies do decide to stop spawning in there anyway. But yeah, that's pretty much my the box I use for pretty much everything, and this has got me through a lot of missions and made it a lot easy without having to do anything. I can literally go ahead, start a mission, go make a cup of coffee, go get some food, come back, and the mission will be finished. And obviously there wouldn't be a scratch on my Atlas. I know yesterday wasn't a very good prime example, but that was mainly because I increased the difficulty, and obviously the spawn was very awkward, so I kind of just hoped it would have been a little bit easier. Alright, so we're going to go just take a look at some other trap designs. You know when sometimes you get mountains like these, and obviously enemies spawn off them, and they're like really tall, and your Atlas is like over here. You know, you get I wouldn't say so close, I would say like here, right? This is a bit of a better example. Your Atlas is there, and there's a cliffside like right here. It's really awkward sometimes to maneuver yourself to actually defend it, and how you would go about doing this is you would kind of go ahead and like build a little filter box, kind of like so, and then you would obviously go back and do the regular 2x2 1x2 afterwards, because it's not fat enough to do it. I'll show you where it gets really awkward soon, but right here is where it just gets a little bit funny. Same with any other standard procedure. Sorry, that should not be there. Same with any other standard procedure you go about doing it. You want to just go ahead and build these out. So right here you put the wall darts, wall launcher, floor spikes, wall lights on inside here. You put all the other traps that I mentioned, but the wall launcher wouldn't really necessarily need to go here because of the way it's built. You will kind of go ahead and put it here, just to try and knock them into here. But it is a really awkward way of getting around it, so I would probably build it like this, so it comes through and knocks them into there. But at the same time, they are going to be trying to get into here, but you always have to leave this one open for enemies to get through anyway. Or just make it the lowest HP one. To make this one made of wood, everything else made of metal, and you should be decent. And obviously stick your base in at the base anyway when you come to it. But yeah, this one's a really awkward one, especially if that's an Atlas. That cannot go there like that, and you'd end up having a inverted wall, which is an even harder procedure. But the wall launcher does knock them into here still. It just makes it a little bit more awkward later on when you try and defend it, because these ones would have to be going editing like this just to prevent them from being able to walk up and take it on, because they can't actually clip through here. So yeah, builds like these, you then have to obviously block off spawns up there. I'll just do that real quick. So doing like builds here, you would build out a platform like so. You're wondering if they could come down the left and right hand side. Yeah, they can. You're just gonna have to go ahead and like block these off in your best fashion possible. Obviously in Saved World it's a little bit harder to block things off on ramps and things, but you're going to have to just try to maneuver your base to design around it. Obviously if you're not running Constructor, then it's going to be a lot easier for you because you're just going to have to gun them up, but you want to block off their spawns as best as possible. How you about go doing this is kind of like this, and that would just pretty much ensure the fact that they end up going down here as well. And yeah, you can put a ramp in as well, and if you had wall darts there, it would still shoot them through it, but it would just make them move down here like so. But yeah, that is a pretty basic form of building a little block off on little ramp sides. We're going to go take a look at some other different designs you can do with trap tunneling and other things like that. Obviously for your storm shield defense now, it's a little bit harder, because the builds for your amplifiers are way more harder than that some people actually realise. With my amplifiers, I don't really defend them because I just build traps everywhere, and that's just a personal choice. I have built a few people's bases for them, and they are very happy with their bases. They've literally gone AFK, and it's fully completed them for them. So when it comes to your amplifier, you end up getting a space like this. Build up a little bit so you guys can see a little bit better. But you end up getting a little space like this, and you can't actually see where you're going to be hitting it. You can't actually build on anything in this area here, which just makes it a little bit awkward. We'll go ahead and build this one out of brick a sec. So the majority of people just usually build around the outside of it, like so, but they usually build around the entire thing. Now, we're going to say, for example, they're all coming from the west side, because let's say your storm shield's this big thing here, and you've got amplifier down there, and you've got amplifier down there. Obviously, if it's your first amplifier, you're not going to be too sure where they're spawning from. But yeah, this here is going to be your amplifier. I'm just going to use this as an example. This is your amplifier. Obviously it's a little bit taller than this, so there we go. This is your amplifier right here. You want to just go about building this one very basically, kind of like this in a way, and this here will just be perfectly fine for your amplifier. Obviously not on the bottom layer, but the top layer, that'll be fine for your amplifier if they are coming from that side. That is a very good build for your amplifier. On these ones here, you put wall darts, and you don't, on the floors here you can put floor launchers, but it's not really necessary because you will be trap tunneling everything out anyway. So we're going to go and just build up, and just going to take a look at what else we can do here. So obviously when it comes to the enemies flushing through, if it's in Canny Valley, you can sometimes get a really big amount of space, and I know some people get really annoyed with how much space they have and they can't build on it because in Canny they spawn in really weird locations. And that's probably the most popular one when it comes to trap tunneling, because Plankton people just gun it, stay where people gun it. And Twine Peaks, everyone knows what they're doing at that point, so there's Canny Valleys where people really start getting into trap tunnels and obviously a bit more serious about the game. So usually I would go with the same design, but if it's a really wide spawn, so let's say all the little spawn points are all along these ones here, and obviously this would usually like ramp up, for example, because you know in Canny they have like these weird ramps going up, so we're just gonna ignore the amplifier a second. But yeah, sometimes we get these weird spawn locations like these. Just ignore the amplifier for a sec. I'm just gonna build a wall in front of it anyway. It's really hard to maneuver. Alright, so yeah, so just ignore that one for a second. But so sometimes they'll spawn down here, like a big pit, and there's like a really big floor. I'm thinking of like when you're defending a storm shield, or like some amplifiers, or they come from really high up. You kind of want to go about like building this entire thing as a giant arena, and what I mean by that is that you want to kind of like fuck them around a little bit. So from where the edge of their spawn would be, you kind of want to like maneuver the point of where you can play around with them. So I would go about, so let's say the spawn was as large as this, for example. I would go about just building a giant box, preferably out of brick, not really wood. But yeah, build it out of a half decent material, put wall darts all along these walls here, and pretty much all along all the walls on all the sides, and this will hit pretty much everything that comes in. Wooden floor spikes all across the board on the floor. And then how you want to go about doing this is you kind of want to push them into a zigzag kind of fashion, going like this around the map, kind of like messing around with their movement, and obviously getting them into a control point. So with all of these wall darts and obviously all of those wooden floors, and you could just go about editing a hole out like this at the end, and probably putting like some ramps up with a wall, and just putting some wall darts in there as well, and some ceiling gas traps as well on these two. I would say probably invert these, would make it a little bit easier actually. Yeah, so this here would be perfectly fine. You want to block these off here so they can't go out these ways, and they will break these ones here to get into your amplifier if that's in there like that. Obviously, if it is a single base, you don't have to go double. You can just go single like this onto your amplifier. And obviously, if it's uneven for you, you can go out one more. But you just have to go about building this a little bit differently. It would actually be a little bit easier because you'd have one in the middle and 3 on the sides and everything like that. But this here is a very good build actually. And wooden floor spikes on here, ceiling gas traps, ceiling electric fields, things like that on here. Sorry, wall launchers, and you can actually make it so that it stops them from being able to come into certain zones. So if you go about like doing these regular little filters, it's going to push them all into the center line here. And then obviously if you go about doing it like this, this is where it kind of gets into more technical side of the game. You put wall launchers here and here. They're going to hit these, get knocked back, deal even more damage to them with obviously all the wall darts everywhere. It's going to be triggering a lot of damage to the enemies at all times. But yeah, how you go about maneuvering it is always do it closest to the wall darts, sorry, the wall launchers. So if the wall launcher's here, you want to get it so it goes closest. So you want to look for the arrow that gets closest to the wall launcher, and that is how you know you are doing it correct, because the enemies, think of you as the husk. You can't walk through this boundary here, you can walk through this boundary here, which means you're going to hit that wall launcher. And obviously when when they're coming through to it, you do want to actually build it to the furthest side possible, because it will take them longer to get through. Obviously you just want to play around a little bit with your spawn trapping and other things like that. But yeah, it is a very basic procedure, and then you can end up going about doing it like this, and even playing around with them even more, splitting them up into the center and doing other things as well, with like wall darts there on the other side, dealing even more heavy amount of damage. You can even make them wrap around the side of it and get them into a little 1x1 box filled with all your traps, just to finish them off at the very end if they do get in. And so builds like this are really, I know, like, to be honest, it's not as practical as my other boxes, but this box here will pretty sure annihilate absolutely everything. Now I know from here it does look confusing, but hopefully I explained it well enough for you guys to understand what was going on about. But yeah, we're going to go and just have a look at some other things you can do real quick with some building, but then that's pretty much going to wrap it up there. When it comes to construction and save the world, you're going to need to understand how enemies move and obviously how enemies work, and the best way to do that is to practice with traps, obviously. I can't say that enough. Practicing with traps and obviously practicing with your games obviously help out a lot. But yeah, my personal favourite build is my little 2x2 box, and obviously I have shown you it just before, but this is my favourite build in the entirety of the game. It just makes everything so much easier. But here it's going to be a little bit different, because this one here is going to be even more efficient. Now this is what I have swarming my Twine Peaks Storm Shield defense. This build I have right here, nothing gets through. It does train a lot of traps, durabilities, but nothing will get through. I guarantee it, 100%, nothing will get through, and I'll explain why in a moment. We're gonna need to get up here a second. So let me just explain to you what I mean by why it's my favorite in the entire game, okay? So we're gonna go about just building this like normal, but we are going to level it up one more layer, and this is where it makes all the difference, okay? This right here changes the game completely. It changes your base, it changes the base design 100%, and this is by far one of the best trap boxes I've ever seen in my entire life. Me and my friend came up with it. He was happy with the design I made, and he wanted to make it better further. So he came up with this design for me, and it's our signature design, and I have never been happier. Okay, I'll explain how it works, guys. Floor launchers here, wall launchers here, wall launcher in here, wall darts, wall light, ceiling gas trap in here. Okay, same in this box, alright? The wall launchers and the floor launchers make a huge difference. The floor launchers on enemies that didn't get hit by the wall launchers will ping up and flick themselves inside these boxes up here. Fill these boxes up here with wooden floor spikes, obviously you need those as well. Then you want to have a wall launcher on the left hand side of the wall darts on that side of the wall, on this side wall lights, and then on the top layer ceiling gas trap, and this here will annihilate absolutely anything that comes in the box. Think about it as a double base but with double the power, and that is basically what we've got here, guys. We have got a quad layered base design with literally absolutely no chance of any enemies getting through. And I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I've seen something even more crazy than this. Okay, I've seen someone build an even crazier design of this base, and I'll try and present it for you guys right now, but it's gonna be really hard to do that. It's really hard to actually present this one off. Obviously, because I've never done it myself, because I've never needed this much power. But I will try and go ahead and show it to you guys. You make it even bigger. Putting floor launchers in there, and this makes it even bigger. This is a triple layered base, only with a two wide fat. But yeah, you can make this as big as you want, obviously as crazy as you want. Just remember that I only recommend going to the second base, because the wall launcher will not obviously hit everything up there if your reload speed is not that fast. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. That does it for this video. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for being a part of this one today, and hopefully you guys learned a bit more on construction in the game, and hopefully you guys know how to build some trap tunnels now. If you do need my help, do invite me to your games, guys, because I will come and assist you. But yeah, that does it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next.